Exclusions. When something is excluded, it means there is no coverage. So basically on life insurance, there's three major exclusions. The first one is aviation, non-commercial. When they say non-commercial, it means your life insurance policy would pay if you're a passenger on a commercial airliner and God forbid the plane crashes and you die, the life insurance would pay out. What they mean by that is if you are a private pilot, you rent a small plane or you own a small plane and you pilot the plane yourself. They'll cover you typically for all other things that might cause your death, but they're not going to cover you if you die as a result of a plane crash when you were the pilot. Okay, because private pilots tend to be not as safe as commercial pilots because they don't fly as much. So they're always going to have you fill out a special form. It's called the aviation form. And they're going to ask you what type of plane. They're going to ask you how many hours you fly. And they really like to see more hours than less because it means that you're current and sharp and, you're doing it routinely, things like that. But they can go ahead and completely exclude your death due to a plane crash when you are the pilot of a private plane. Another group of items that are excluded are either a hazardous occupation or a hazardous hobby. Another word for hobby is avocation. In fact, the other side of the aviation form is called the avocation form, and that's the hobby form. So if you do dangerous hobbies, if you're maybe an adrenaline junkie and you like to bungee jump off of bridges or jump out of helicopters with a snowboard and snowboard down a mountain run or something like that, or you cliff dive in Acapulco, those are all examples of dangerous hobbies. And especially, if you do it as a hobby, you do it repeatedly. If it's I was on vacation in Acapulco and I decided to cliff dive one time, okay, that's probably not going to be a problem. But if you do something dangerous as a hobby consistently, again, they will cover your death for everything except a death that's related to that dangerous hobby. Same thing with a dangerous occupation. There are certain occupations that are just too risky for a regular private insurance company to cover. For example, if you race cars, if you ride bulls, those are kinds of jobs that are just too risky for a regular insurance company to cover. So they will cover your death for everything, but if the death is caused by a racing accident or a bull riding incident, something like that. The third one is war and military service. This exclusion is on every type of policy I have ever seen. They do not cover you if you die because of an act of war or if you are in the military and in harm's way. Now understand, the military does take care of its own, and typically they offer our armed services the ability to buy very inexpensive term insurance to cover them while they're in a war zone or in harm's way, but their personally owned policies will not pay. So if you have people who come to you who are in the reserves who might get called up and sent over to a dangerous area, you need to make them aware that their personal policies would not cover them because it's excluded. Let's talk about the suicide clause. It has a similarity to the incontestability clause because it relates to the first 2 years of the contract. If a person buys a life insurance policy and then commits suicide within the first 2 years of the policy, the insurance company will not pay out the death benefit. They will simply refund any premium dollars that were paid to the beneficiary. That's it. They will not do any more. Now, if someone commits suicide 2 years and 1 day after the policy has been in effect, then the insurance company would pay the full death claim. Why 2 years? The insurance industry can statistically prove, they have, researched it, worked with the statisticians, talked to the experts. Typically, someone who contemplates suicide does exactly that. They contemplate it for a long time. It's not something they make a snap decision on and they do the act. So they've decided that, the average or the length of time that seems practical and they can statistically prove it is 2 years. So if someone does commit suicide within the first 2 years of the policy, the thought process is that they were contemplating death when they took out the policy. They're trying to protect their loved ones, but they were trying to protect their loved ones already knowing that they were going to take their own life. So do remember that suicide clause is the first 2 years of the policy.